Hi, welcome to Mom on the Right, and I have a special guest today. Her name is Ariyana Love, and she is not only an activist, but she is a supporter, and she's trying to free political prisoner Julian Assange. She is one of the very few people in the world that have heard back from him. Yeah, this is serious stuff. And thank you for coming on today. This is huge, girl. Can you just tell me about your involvement with WikiLeaks and how that started and this letter? No one hears from this guy because he's limited. You just tell me how you got involved and go into the letter a little bit?
Sure.
Thank you.
Well, about a year and a half ago, this was just before Julian Assange was cut off from all communication at the Ecuadorian embassy, and a spy campaign by the Lenin Moreno regime, was waged against him. Right before that, I learned that WikiLeaks and Julian Assange were following the Liberty Beacon. And of course that meant me also, because I was directing Middle East Rising.
Right.
And so for the first time, I mean, I'd seen his picture for, thousands of times, but for the first time there was some connection. And I began to take notice of what they were doing a little more closely. My particular area of interest is in the satanic ritual abuse and the child trafficking that's going on worldwide.
Right.
I think it is very underreported, and it's a horrific thing to have to publish on or to have to expose, but it needs to be done. So I was researching in this arena, and I began to go down the rabbit hole, you could say, and see how deep this really goes. And my appreciation for them and for Julian Assange was going up, especially because they were tackling the pedophiles in the highest echelons of society. Even from, an embassy. So this is really, it's touching, it's moving, that anyone would take on such a thing and be so brave. And, I kind of feel the same way, like when it comes to children and they're in torture, there's almost nothing I won't do to try to stop it or expose it. It's something that you feel innately. And so like Julian, I feel that passion, and so I think that's where our connection was. But he was soon after cut off from communication. And, I didn't know what had happened to him. It was like he disappeared. And then the next thing you know, he surfaces and he's being abducted by British forces, and he was betrayed by the Lenin Moreno regime. They illegally revoked his citizenship and also his political asylum. He was an asylum refugee in the embassy. So this was in contravention of international law. So Julian was, horrifically betrayed. He was abducted by British forces. He's being tortured. And where I stepped in, because I already had some kind of connection with him, and I knew that he knows who I am, I felt that I had a chance to do something. And so 6 weeks after his incarceration at Belmarsh prison in UK, in London, that was when Niels Melzer's report came out. Now, Niels Melzer is a law professor and the UN Rapporteur on Torture. He went and visited Julian Assange after his health collapsed, and he ended up in the hospital unit of Belmarsh, where he still is. His health has not been improving. That means he does not have access to vital life-saving medicine and healthcare. So he's being tortured. That's what torture is. Being incarcerated in a maximum security prison for only publishing truthful information that was in the public's best interest is what a journalist does and a publisher should do, right? So he is being politically persecuted. He's a political prisoner. He's the most powerful political prisoner on the planet, and I can attest to that, because right after he was incarcerated, there was a barrage of slander against him and smears that were systematically released in the mainstream media, to the point of fabricated evidence, you name it, to try to prove all these different smears. Now, I jumped in on Twitter and began to follow the people who are really defending Julian. And they're an array of people. You have academics and scholars, you have professors and lawyers, you have public figures, you have, you know, the average person, and people need to realize one other thing, that Anonymous and WikiLeaks were synonymous from the beginning. It is one. So it's this, you know, it's the same force, it's the same people. These are freedom fighters. All right, these people have been in the front lines of keeping democracy and sovereignty of nations, giving people, the average person, a choice to choose, to know what our leaders are doing and to choose who we have govern over us. They gave us a chance to survive, to choose. We would not have known the horrors without WikiLeaks. And a lot of people still have trouble facing them. Okay, and it's we have ways to go with that, but people need to take a stand now. I mean, I just really want to say this, that everybody needs to stand up, use your platforms, use your voices, do whatever you can, and take consistent action to save Julian Assange, because his freedom is in our hands. He can no longer defend himself, but our freedom is also in his hands and in his freedom. Okay, it's like that. It is a synonymous relationship we have to this.
For especially like journalists too, who are
especially, yeah, journalists and citizens reporters. You know, anybody that's reporting truth, you can be targeted and censored, shut down, or like me, you could have your websites cracked by cyber terrorists and governments. Anybody who is speaking truth and they don't want you to, you know, they're going to come in silence. And right now, this extradition, first of all, let me just say this, that I have been watching every single smear, and I have been watching a team of seasoned activists, okay, that have been defending Julian Assange for years, countering every one of them, like war,
right,
or like a tennis match, you know, but it's war. I mean, either way you look at it. So they're keeping journalism honest. They're keeping democracy real. And you know, the U.S. government was accusing WikiLeaks and Julian Assange of being their own intelligence agency, and that was used to smear. Well, maybe that's true. I mean, that's a good thing. That's what we need. We, the people, need to govern ourselves. And there are people on this planet that still take matters like that into their own hands and care for the rights and privileges of others, for the freedoms. I mean, freedom is not a freedom is not a privilege. It is, no. Sorry, I turned my notifications off. I don't know how that's still on, but
you're fine.
Thought I did anyway.
You're fine. Welcome back to Mom on the Right. Hi, Ariana. Yeah, we were discussing that he's Julian is limited in his communication, and as far as like lawyers getting hold of his parents, maybe, and you get a letter.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that letter?
Okay, yeah. After Nils Melzer's torture report, the UN Rapporteur on Torture, you know, he went to Belmarsh after Julian's health collapsed, and he went with 2 torture experts, and they analyzed Julian, and they said he showed all the signs of prolonged psychological torture, and that it's very, very serious. Nils Melzer took a look at the smears against Julian, and he wrote a second follow-up report just on that alone. Okay, so it's that serious. Like, and I have to agree, I have never seen a single person, just like Nils Melzer said, being barraged with smears from the most powerful news agencies, the most followed news agencies in the world.
Right.
And, you know, and it's a single individual, and none of it is true. Julian has done nothing wrong. He hasn't broken a single law. and he's got like 18 charges against him, espionage. Under the oh my gosh, I'm blanking now.
It's okay. It's okay. Because I thought it was the Espionage Act too. I thought he was.
I'm so sorry. You know, this is when I'm stressed. I'm really emotional. I feel a connection to him, and I understand what he's done. You know, I'm passionate not just about saving this man's life,
Right.
but about what it means to our freedom. I am shaken. You can't. I don't even recognize myself. I am a different person than I was, you know, before he was seized. And I have been taking in a tremendous amount of information about Julian, about the smears, about the counter, you know, the counters. Every one of the smears were countered. And now they're bringing up this stupid rape allegation from Sweden, which is just more of the torture. There were no charges ever. It was dropped twice. The evidence was false. What more do you need? But yet the media uses that to throw out that word. So if I can just clarify on that, because I think that's going to be coming up, so I need to mention something about that.
Okay.
Julian was having consensual sex with another female. And the females went to the police station. The police coerced them into saying something they didn't want to. This is what the girls said from their own mouths. So basically, the rape charge is about when a condom falls off during consensual sex. If the man continues to have sex and he knows it's broken, that's rape in Sweden. It's a particular law that exists only there. Now, Julian says that he didn't know the condom broke. He doesn't know that a condom broke. He didn't know. And the girls are saying that a condom did break. But the condom that was in the hands of the police had absolutely no DNA on it whatsoever. So somebody falsified evidence. So this is a joke. It's a charade. Swedish government to shame with them. Who are they protecting but pedophiles? And that's what it comes down to, what most people don't want to say. That's the truth. Julian Assange is being persecuted by pedophiles and criminals, okay, people that he's exposed and Wikileaks has exposed for doing these horrific crimes that the average mind cannot even comprehend. They're so horrible.
And what is he telling you though? Where is he at now as far as what you can see mentally as best he can be? I mean, under those conditions.
He remembers.
Yeah.
He remembers me. That's a good sign.
Okay.
Yes. Because, and you know how I know that? Because in the letter that he sent me from Belmarsh, and the reason he did that, well, I mean, the reason I published his letter as well is because I asked him, is there any, I've written him four times, and on the fourth letter, I asked him, is there anything you want me to say to the public for you?
Right.
And it was about BREXIT. He said, don't let the bastards sacrifice freedom of speech, European democracy, and my life on the altar of BREXIT. Now, when he used the word bastards, that was a personal message to me to let me know that he remembers me.
Right.
Because in times when I was so upset and I was at a loss for words at the Israeli occupation, Zionist crimes against the Palestinians, I would just say those bastards and put an exclamation point and just throw it out there. I could say nothing, you know, just those bastards. And Julian remembers that. So then I knew that he was watching me and following me and maybe appreciating what I was doing, obviously. He's very particular. He doesn't write to anybody. We have 4 letters, maybe a couple more. There might be up to 6, but I'm not sure about one of them. Somebody may have made a fake letter. I don't know. I don't want to spread rumors, but it's a possibility. Hopefully not, you know. But anyway, he's very particular. And what I noticed is that the people he's writing are independent journalists.
My thing is, how come, I never heard of like any published letter unless, like you said, you did it on social media, I believe. You published it, which we would ask that you would publish it too on the Liberty Beacon if you're okay with that. But I haven't heard anything in mainstream media. I'm not surprised, but I haven't heard anything, haven't seen anything. It's like they just dead and buried. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The only truth that's coming out right now is independent voices,
Right.
Independent journalists, and then an array of people who follow, who defend Julian Assange, of
Right.
professionals.
Okay.
Even politicians.
Yeah, and some have come out. I've been reading and doing my research on it because it's like I said, I haven't really heard anything. Everything's been kind of dead and buried. Where they're trying to bury it. What else did he mention in that letter do you think would be important for our viewers to know?
Yeah. Well, the piece about BREXIT.
Okay.
It's interesting. He wanted BREXIT to be highlighted.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
In 2016, Julian had supported BREXIT.
Right.
Okay, and that came out in a publication. So now maybe he has a different view because of what it might mean at present time. And if you look at BREXIT, the plans for BREXIT, there's 3 different choice options, and the assessment of what it would mean to Europe and the UK and the economy is collapse. Okay, so at this point, Europe is one union. All right, and I think it's safer for Europe to remain that way. That's my personal opinion. I could be wrong. But I think that if Brexit does occur, it would strengthen the ties between the United States and the UK, and that could be dangerous for Julian. It could make it more easy for extradition. But who really knows? The important thing is that Julian needs to be freed. His freedom it's a precedent now of tyranny that we can't allow to happen. If the United States government, which is a tyrannical Zionist occupied regime, it's a regime now. We're occupied. The United States is occupied by Zionist criminals and compromised. And if we allow this regime to reach its hand into a foreign land, which is Europe, and extradite somebody for torture, a publisher and a journalist, multi-award winning, then where does that leave the rest of us? Anyone who is reporting, not only a journalist, citizens reporter, can have their life be in danger for speaking the truth. Well, what does that do to freedom of speech and freedom of the press, freedom, to it's a whole new level of tyranny. People need to realize that. And we're on the brink also of, worse, other genocide, just genocide, okay? They're going to turn the 5G on in the United States in October. This is a spy grid for Israel, all right? They're able to beam up from a satellite all of our raw data, everything we're doing inside our homes, up to a satellite and beam it back down to Tel Aviv, the privately held corporation. Sovereignty is gone. What's going on the border in the United States, that's genocide. That's also genocide. I have to say this because people aren't hearing it in the mainstream media. And it's like, when you forcibly transfer a child from one group to another, it's genocide. And kids are being trafficked.
Yeah, we know that. And back to Julian, if we could just kind of, with that, and we've talked about that.
My point was that the United States is compromised, that it's the sovereignty is lost, and it's rogue. And Europe has to take a stand. Europe has to. There is the possibility still, and there are smart people in Europe in power who do care about their sovereignty.
Right.
I know this, but they need to make a move now. it's time. You know, we have to save Julian Assange. Everybody has been quiet. I've been writing to the government in Finland, to the president's office, to the entire staff. Nobody even bothered to email me back.
They don't even bother when, you know, I've interviewed someone who could really break open a lot of stuff with the sex trafficking. She can't get anywhere. With even all the proof she has, she can't get anywhere. So you telling me that, it doesn't surprise me. You know, it really, when it comes to government, I mean, it's supposed to be a democracy and we're supposed to keep checks and balances, but we all know the truth. I mean, yeah, and Julian was involved in breaking a lot of things open to help the American public. What would you say to those that, like, he broke the law, he needs to be in prison? He hacked computers. He hacked.
You have to look to facts. People need to understand. Yeah, people need to understand that there's a huge smear campaign waged against Julian Assange, confirmed by the UN Rapporteur on Torture, Niels Melzer, in his report. There's a huge campaign to smear him, and the pedophile elites and the pedophile governments, superpowers, are, well, okay, they're using this Espionage Act to persecute him. If you just look at that, just look at the Espionage Act in itself. 17 of those charges are for doing journalism, what are things that a normal journalist will do. The 18th charge doesn't even apply to a Julian Assange. So there's completely fabricated, they are grasping at straws right now, trying to put together a case against Julian. They don't have one, so they have to use the media to smear him, to turn our minds against him so we don't sympathize with him and his torture. He's being tortured. He's not allowed to talk to his parents. The last time his brother went and visited him, he was afraid that was the last time he was going to see him alive. He's emaciated. His health is not improving because he's been isolated, tortured. So people need to raise awareness, our voices. We need to keep pushing, doing everything we can. Write to your politicians, call them on the phone, you know, study his case. If somebody says that Julian has done anything wrong, they're ignorant. They don't know the fact. It's out there on social media. Look at independent journalist reports, people that have been following WikiLeaks for years. They have all the facts and data. They've countered every single smear out there, everything. And another thing people need to know is that the judge, what is Archibald or something? I cannot remember the name offhand, but the judge who is persecuting Julian wants to persecute him. His hearing is in February of next year. This judge called him, so basically when Julian was abducted from the embassy, he was given like a brief meeting with his lawyers. He was taken immediately into the court. And when he had a second hearing later from I think from Belmarsh, the judge called him a narcissist and didn't even allow him to speak. So this was somebody who, there's a conflict of interest. Her husband was exposed in financial crimes by WikiLeaks. So there's a huge conflict of interest with the judge. People need to study Julian's case.
And is he coming back to the U.S.? Because I read something. Is he going to be extradited to the U.S. or is he?
They want to extradite him to the U.S.
Right.
That's what they've got. They're trumping up charges. Okay, this is a charade. Julian has done nothing wrong. From what I've been doing, nothing but taking in information every day, and on Twitter sharing a massive amount of information and articles and reading through them and becoming familiar with WikiLeaks, what they've done, and more with Julian Assange too. I absolutely admire the man. He is a lovely human being. He has done an incredible service for humanity. And this is the thing I want people to realize. You know, when Niels Melzer was defending him, or when defending him in his report, he said that he's never seen a group of democratic states ganging up on a single individual for so long and with such concerted effort. Something like that. It's not a direct quote, but it's close. And, you know, people need to keep that in the forefront of their minds. When you hear something negative about Julian Assange, I guarantee it's political persecution. He was meticulous in his work. He never made a mistake. WikiLeaks never made had to retract a publication, not a single one. There's no news agency on the planet.
Well, he published emails. It's, you know, how can you can't, I mean, how can you deflect? If there's an email, there's nothing that the person in question can, we're going to make them retract an email that someone already wrote.
Well,
You know?
they never made mistakes like that. They just,
Exactly. But I mean, I saw the emails and like, you know, especially when Secretary Clinton, I was like, you can't make that up. These are the emails, you know? And it's just like, why would he have to retract something that's fact and that's being showed? So I totally agree with that. And he's working against powers that, well, we could see from Jeffrey Epstein, how he's been protected and so many other people are protected. And so this doesn't, I'm not at all like surprised here. Is he, in the letter, did he state he was, how he was emotionally, like, you know, how is he doing? I mean, under the
his handwriting was fairly steady.
Okay.
But, yeah, but you know, they have been, there's a possibility they've been giving him BZ, which is a psychotropic drug, and doing enhanced interrogation. This was something that a former intelligence talked about and said that they're doing. You know, he's isolated. We don't have access to him, so
Right.
no one's really sure. They're keeping it that way. He's not able to access his lawyers and doctors as he needs to defend himself against these extradition
Right.
trumped up charges, and this is, you know, they say it's intentional.
What well, I know you were surprised by receiving you know, I don't know what you can reveal else in that letter. So, all right, outside of Brexit,
it felt like the most natural thing in the world, because I had been doing so much to defend him and spending so much time that I was like, oh, a letter arrived. Yay. Okay. It's a letter. I'll read that a little bit later. And I set it down and I was like, I'm going to go back and read it. And it just didn't even hit me yet. And it took a little while. Then it hit me and I was like, wait, I just got a letter today from Julian Assange. What am I doing? And I went to the letter and I opened it. I mean, I guess I was like, I had some level of denial or something, or I was still busy doing something. But then when I opened it, like, there was much to his letter. I mean, to me, it's like poetry. It's a riddle. It's there's layers to it, you know. And then I wasn't surprised to find out later that he was inspired by Shakespeare, you know, and poetry in his youth. So it's really special to.
So it was like it was more personal than anything else, because he's got to be careful what he says anyway, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And the letter was very brief, you know.
Yeah.
But it was, you know what it really is it's like, look, he needs allies. And I mean, okay, sure, he must appreciate me. And believe in me and have trust.
Yeah, but you're only like one of there's only 4, he's only allowed to write what, 4 letters a month, and you're one of them? You had to do something. It must be your charm, Ariyana.
Well, I think I have more to offer.
You're very charming.
Than just one thing. Like, I wear several hats, and I'm very concerned about his health, and I was focusing on his health.
And you plan on visiting him, right?
I hope so.
Okay.
I really hope so. Yes.
Is he allowed visitors? I mean, at this point, it's like, can he get visitors?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. It's really hard. They're not allowing him. They're allowing him like, I think 2 family visits per month, and then he has limited access to his lawyers, and he's got.
That's what I'm a little like, you know, that's, yeah. And isn't Britain like a democracy or
And they're
supposedly?
messing with his hours and his time with family. Like they cut into it and make up excuses, and it's
Yeah.
very cruel. Yeah.
Um, okay, so wow. It's a lot to digest, Ariana.
I know.
Now, I was
I,
looking at WikiLeaks. They haven't updated anything in a while. Is there someone else running it for him, or what's going on with that? Are you allowed to say that? Anything?
well, I think they're a lot of them are very busy in defending Julian right now
Okay.
and trying to save his life. I
Okay.
would imagine. I'm guessing and I'm
Okay.
seeing. You know, it's taking a great effort by everybody because, you know, the media comes along and, you know, to hide the fact that they just did something completely illegal and they're violating Julian's human rights and violating international law and the laws on political asylum and stuff. They have to distract us with these mainstream media smears, and it also distracts from what WikiLeaks has done, the important information that is out there for people to view for themselves. You know, our governments are tyrannical and they are criminal, and there's criminals in them, and the way that they operate is, you know, without transparency. So what WikiLeaks did is give us transparency, and you know, we need that. We need to appreciate them for that. Our whistleblowers, Julian and Snowden, and also Chelsea Manning. You know, Chelsea Manning is in the in a prison right now, being
Yeah.
held. I don't know if it's indefinitely or what they. I mean, it's indefinitely. They just do what they want. They make stuff up as they go, and they're charging Chelsea $1,000 per day, as long as she will not testify against Julian Assange. And basically, she said there's nothing further to say, and what they're trying to do is get her to lie, you know, to stop the torture or something. But these are people of principle, and they're some of the best human beings and bravest souls on earth. You know, look what Julian has sacrificed for us to be informed, to know what is really going on in our world, and to make informed decisions about who we let rule us. He's sacrificed his life, and you know, his life is in serious danger. As long as he's in that prison, he doesn't have access to adequate health, adequate medical care.
Have you heard anything from
Um,
the British government regarding this?
yeah, I wrote to them and I asked questions, but you know, they weren't going to
They're
tell
not
me
good.
anything.
Yeah.
They replied, but you know, he needs his particular condition. After 7 years in the Ecuadorian embassy, deprived of, you know, walks in nature, fresh air, vitamin D, and vitamins from sunlight, um, being deprived of human contact, which is the most basic fundamental need of a human being. That's like, you know, being on house arrest or solitary, or, you know, it's very similar, you know, and after a long period of time, it wears a person down. So I forgot where I was going with this.
It's okay. I know you're very involved. You're working to help him, and you're doing so many other things.
I'm very worried about him and about his life and about his health. And torture is not fun. Torture is painful. And a man like him doesn't deserve it. He doesn't deserve what's being done to him. And I think that, you know, if we turn our backs on him now when he needs us, there's going to be grave consequences to us all and to our freedom. And we don't see it yet, but some of us do. You know, people like me who have been researching daily for the last 7 years and researching events and reporting on them and following the geopolitics pretty closely, right?
Yeah.
We know what's coming. People are going to have to wake up. They're going to have to take matters into their own hands and inform themselves.
And you are,
Information.
yeah. And I think because you're such a human rights defender, an advocate, I think that's just eating away at your core. You don't like injustice. We don't like injustice in anything. We don't want to see injustice. And I think that you're so involved and you have such a heart for justice. It's very overwhelming. And I think your work propels you forward and gives you that strength. I mean, you've also volunteered with Anonymous. You're doing so many things. I mean, with the Liberty Beacon still. Um, did he give you any sense that he is hopeful about a good outcome?
Yeah, he said we can win this. He has hope. What I'm trying to do is give him hope. You can write to Julian. He likes to receive letters, and it gives him hope. Give him hope. Everything that you can tell him what's going on outside. He's disconnected and cut off, and not able to access the internet, of course.
Well, yeah.
So he has hope. I think it's us that are going to give it to him. I mean, he's in a hopeless situation, and after prolonged torture as it was, then to go this next step into a dungeon, basically. It's what it's designed to do is to break the person psychologically so that they feel that there's no hope, and then they just give up and maybe they die. But if Julian were to actually, if that were to happen to him, okay, in Belmarsh, the British government would be, they don't want that. They would be in a, it would be an uproar. People would fight back, and it could sabotage their plans and everything. So, it's, what they want is to extradite him to the United States and let the U.S. do it.
Deal with it, yeah. Right. Which is possible, right? I mean, that's possible. Anything's possible in this scenario.
It's definite. If he's extradited, it's definite he will.
Okay, he will be. Okay.
Will
I just don't, you see the headlines, I don't know.
He would never be on an internet again. They want to keep him offline, but they have to understand, the ones that are torturing him need to understand that it really makes no difference whether he is alive or dead to the future, because the information is out and there's nothing stopping it from spreading at this point.
Exactly, and WikiLeaks will continue.
If Julian Assange was killed, people would be flooding to WikiLeaks information and becoming more and more informed, and it would be their nightmare. So that's a warning. I want them to release him. Release him and let him recover to health. You're not going to have Julian Assange. You're not going to have Julian Assange to them. You won't have him. We won't allow it. He is so loved. He is so beloved to so many people. People love him like I've never seen. Julian has a way to take people close to him. He knows how to charm them, but in the right way, because I think he's an exceptional human being, and I think we could all learn something from him.
Well, I just I want our viewers to understand that we're going to try to get as much of the letter out as possible, as Ariyana feels comfortable with. She's been a really published. It's already out there. Okay, it's published already, so we're going to have it on the Liberty Beacon for everyone to see. It's already been published, like she said. I apologize for that, and we'll get it on the site with this article and this interview. And
it was meant for everybody to see it.
And we need to have it on Liberty Beacon because we got it going on here. Yeah, we have it here. We got you here. Your work with the Liberty Beacon. I mean, you're just a crusader for human rights. I mean, finally, I mean, what you got from the letter, that he's still hopeful. How are his followers?
There is hope. There is hope, but it's gonna come from us.
Gotcha. Okay.
People have to realize what they've done, what's already done, what WikiLeaks has done, the information that's out there. People need to take that in. They need to be aware of it if they're not. And And if somebody is not aware of it, they have no right to criticize anything. So, you know, this is, gosh.
All right, so it's okay. Now you spent a lot. I don't want to.
I'm sorry, I got
You're
emotional.
fine.
No, I said I wasn't, you know.
It's okay. You're like when you're emotionally invested in something, and you know, I get very emotional on the show too. I've almost cried with guests. So, you know, I get it, and I respect your feelings, and you know, I just, you know, anyone to do what you're doing, I commend you because it's a risk. Everyone, it's a risk. Our freedoms are at stake. You know, these little mom and pop shows like me can go like, they can like get rid of us, all of us. YouTube, on Google, on Facebook, we see the censorship. You know how I feel about it. I reported it on it before. We can't have journalists being censored. We can't. This is not a democracy then. And, you know, Ariana, I appreciate you bringing that out and keeping us posted. I'll be very upset if you don't keep me posted. I got your email.
I sure will. I sure will. And thank you for having me on too. And I just wrote an article about everything that has happened to Julian, summarizing it, and also my view on it. And I added some additional information from another whistleblower. So when that's published, I can also get that to you.
Yeah, then we can get it on our site. Okay, we got it.
That's important. It's important. I mean, that will give more details about everything that we've discussed here today, but in detail. So, and it's got a bunch of links in it so that people can do the research. It's all kind of compiled into one article.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much, and we stay in touch. And guys, stay tuned. We got more to come on this story. Thank you, Ariana.
Thank you.